Here's something that might surprise you. Studies show that creative professionals spend only 10% of their time actually being creative. The other 90%. That's what we're diving into today.
Well, that's a fascinating statistic. I bet most people imagine creative jobs are just constant inspiration and brainstorming.
You know, it's funny because according to recent industry surveys, about 85% of creative professionals say the biggest misconception about their work is that it's all spontaneous ideation. The reality is that my typical day involves hours of market research, data analysis, and project management.
That reminds me of a similar disconnect in my field. A recent Stack Overflow survey showed that developers spend only about 20% of their time actually writing code.
Oh, really? So what happens during that other 80% of your time?
Well, according to that same survey, about 40% goes to reading documentation and debugging, 25% to collaboration and meetings, and the rest to planning and architecture.
That's so interesting because in creative consulting, we have almost identical breakdowns. A recent industry report showed that about 45% of our time goes to research and planning, 30% to client communication, and only that small slice to actual creative work.
Speaking of planning, you know what's really surprising? Studies show that programmers who spend more time planning actually write code faster in the long run.
Oh my gosh, yes. We have the exact same pattern in advertising. Teams that spend more time in strategic planning end up producing campaigns about 40% faster than those who jump straight into the creative phase.
So what's the biggest challenge you face in explaining this reality to clients?
Well, according to our latest client satisfaction surveys, there's this huge gap between expectations and reality. About 70% of clients initially expect to see creative concepts within the first week. But the data shows that successful campaigns typically require 3 to 4 weeks of research and strategy first.
That sounds similar to how project managers often underestimate development time by 50 to 60% because they don't account for all the planning and testing phases.
You know what's really fascinating? The Harvard Business Review recently published a study showing that both creative and technical fields suffer from the same iceberg illusion. People only see the 10% above water, completely missing the 90% of work happening below the surface.
Well, that explains why both our fields struggle with similar misconceptions about productivity and timelines.
And here's something that might blow your mind. Research shows that both programmers and creative professionals experience almost identical rates of what they call solution incubation, where our brains solve problems subconsciously while we're doing other tasks.
That's exactly why some of my best coding solutions come to me when I'm not actively coding.
Speaking of solutions, let's talk about how both our industries are evolving. Recent trends show that about 65% of creative agencies are now incorporating data analytics into their creative process. While I imagine programming is becoming more creative.
Oh, definitely. But studies indicate that about 70% of modern software development involves user experience design, which requires significant creative thinking.
So what do you think this means for the future of both our fields?
Well, according to industry projections, we're looking at an increasingly hybrid future where technical and creative skills become inseparable.
That makes so much sense because we're seeing the same trend. The latest industry reports predict that by 2025, over 80% of creative positions will require some level of data literacy and technical understanding.
You know what's really interesting? The World Economic Forum recently classified both our fields as hybrid skills domains, meaning they require equal parts technical and creative thinking.
Well, I guess that proves we're not so different after all. Though I still kind of wish you did hack into mainframes wearing a black hoodie.
And I'm still disappointed you don't spend your days having creative epiphanies in trendy coffee shops.
But hey, maybe that's the most important myth we've busted today. That complex work rarely fits into simple stereotypes.